Imagine a young black girl in torn shoes, eyes full of silent desperation, walking up to a billionaire in a sharp suit on a rainy city sidewalk and asking, "Excuse me, sir, can I go home with you?" The whole street froze. He looked down, stunned because what she said next would unravel a secret so deep, so shocking, it would change both their lives forever. Before we dive into this unbelievable story, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because what happens next will leave your heart racing and your jaw on the floor. It was a cold Thursday evening in Manhattan, the kind of night where even the taxis seemed to speed up to avoid the drizzle that clung like regret. Billionaire real estate mogul Grant Ellison had just exited a high-rise development meeting, his designer umbrella shielding him from the worst of the city's grime. His mind was already calculating stocks, properties, and the next $1 million deal when a voice, young, trembling, but strangely firm, broke through the wet air like a shard of glass. "Excuse me, sir. Can I go home with you?" At first, he barely heard it. Then again louder. Turning, he saw a girl, no older than maybe 12. Black, drenched to the bone, holding a plastic grocery bag with what looked like everything she owned. A book, a cracked phone, and a single shoe. Grant blinked, thinking it was a scam. "What did you say?" he asked. Her eyes were wide but steady. "I don't want your money. I just want to go home with you, please." A few onlookers glanced over, some with pity, some with judgment. Grant's driver was already opening the rolls. Royce's door. But something about the girl stopped him. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. She was waiting, and that unnerved him. He knelt down, asked her name. "My name's Ava. I think you knew my mom, Rachel Carter." The name hit Grant like a gut punch. He hadn't heard it in 16 years. She was the girl he'd dated secretly back when he was just a junior associate, long before the wealth, before the skyscrapers bore his name. Rachel, the one who vanished, the one he left behind. And now, standing in front of him, was a girl with her eyes. "Get in the car," he said hoarsely, trying not to shake. He didn't know why. Instinct, guilt, maybe fate. But what he didn't know was that this girl wasn't just his past coming back. She was his future detonating before his very eyes. Iva had never been in a house so big. Chandeliers bigger than cars. Marble floors colder than the streets she'd slept on. Grant's mansion in Upper East Side was more museum than home, but Ava didn't flinch. She walked in like she belonged. "You hungry?" he asked. She nodded. They ate grilled salmon and asparagus, her first warm meal in days. But Ava didn't come for food. She had a folder. Taped, torn, but organized. Photos of Rachel, her mother, and letters addressed to G.E. that had never been mailed. In those letters, Rachel spoke of a secret, a pregnancy, a daughter, a promise to never ruin his career. Ava had found them only weeks ago, after her mother died of untreated pneumonia in a women's shelter. "I thought maybe you'd want to know," Ava said. "Or at least give me a place to stay for a night." But Grant wasn't thinking of charity. He was thinking about blood, about the girl who looked just like him at 13. His lawyer demanded a DNA test. His assistant began making calls. But deep down, Grant already knew. And with each hour Ava stayed, the harder it was to pretend she wasn't his daughter. Still, something didn't add up. Why had Rachel never reached out? Why hadn't anyone told him? And why on Ava's torn folder was a photo of Grant's estranged younger brother, Mason Ellison, smiling beside Rachel in a way that wasn't platonic? The next day, Grant dug up old emails, security footage from his old office, and surveillance. History. What he found chilled him. Rachel had come to him. Mason had intercepted everything. He had sent her away, stolen messages, and even paid people off to erase the evidence. Because Mason, debt-ridden, vindictive, knew Rachel carried Grant's child and didn't want his brother to have a family he never could. Rage stormed inside Grant like 1,000 skyscrapers falling. But Ava? She just wanted to sleep in a warm bed. Neither of them knew Mason was watching and planning to end what he started 16 years ago. Grant tried to adjust. He hired a tutor, got Ava a private room, set up medical checkups, therapy, new clothes. But Ava wasn't like other kids. She was smarter than most of his executives, quietly observant. At a board meeting she visited by accident, she asked a question about a development site in Harlem. "Why are you tearing down that building?" "It's where my friend's mom works." The room froze. The site had legal red tape. And somehow Ava knew. "I read it in one of the documents on the table," she said innocently. But Grant saw something more. He started bringing her to meetings, not as a daughter, as an advisor. She uncovered $1 million fraud being funneled by, you guessed it, Mason. But Mason wasn't done. One night, the mansion was broken into. Security found Ava's room empty. A note in cut-out letters. "You stole my life. I'm taking hers." Mason had kidnapped her and left a clue only Grant would understand, a location burned into his memory. The rundown apartment where Rachel used to live. Grant raced there with his private team. Found the place in ruins, and Ava? She was tied up, but not broken. In fact, she was the one who had triggered the silent alarm using a piece of her bracelet and an old landline. When they broke in, Mason lunged with a knife. Ava screamed. But Grant, furious, broken, and reborn as a father, shielded her with his own body and tackled Mason into the wall. Police came. Mason was arrested, but in that moment, Ava didn't cry. She clung to Grant's bleeding shoulder and whispered, "I knew you'd come for me." And Grant, for the first time in decades, cried like a month's past. Ava, now declared Grant's legal daughter, appeared beside him in interviews, not for sympathy, but strength. "She's not just my daughter," Grant said on national TV. "She's the smartest person I know." Donations poured into women's shelters in Rachel's name. Grant launched a housing initiative to stop displacement in low-income areas, called Ava's Home. But the biggest shock came one day in London, where Grant was scheduled to speak. As they stood outside the hotel, Ava noticed a woman in a wheelchair being ignored by the concierge. Without hesitation, Ava helped her up the stairs, gave her water, and stayed with her. That woman turned out to be a reporter filming a hidden kindness segment. The story went viral. Young black girl raised on the street, now heir to billion-dollar empire. But Ava didn't want fame. She wanted justice. She became a youth advocate. Got accepted to Harvard. And Grant? He was just proud to be called Dad. On her 18th birthday, they visited Rachel's grave together. "She would have been proud," Ava whispered. "You made her proud," Grant replied. And just when things seemed peaceful, Grant pulled out a ring. Not for Ava, but for her tutor, Ms. Lena, a fierce, kind-hearted woman who'd helped Ava heal. "Excuse me," Ava smirked, mimicking her younger self. "Can we go home together?" Everyone laughed. The billionaire who once stood speechless on a rainy sidewalk now knelt, grateful not for his wealth but for a question that changed everything, a question that saved 2 lives, a question that started it all.